This is Radio Taiwan International. Welcome to the news on Radio Taiwan International. I'm Michelle Chang coming to you from Taipei, Taiwan. We begin with a look at today's top stories for Thursday, September 11th. Universal cash payments worth 236 billion NT dollars has been approved by the cabinet. Romanian news publishes a Taiwanese official's message to the international community. And President Lai Ching-te faults the opposition for the flawed fiscal law revision. But first, today's top story. The cabinet approved a 550 billion NT dollar, which is over 18.1 billion US dollar budget for the Special Act for Strengthening Economic, Social, and National Security Resilience in response to international circumstances on Thursday. The policy includes 236 billion NT dollars, which is 7.8 billion US dollars for universal cash payments. The act focuses on four key areas: supporting industry, stabilizing employment, caring for people's livelihoods, and strengthening resilience. The Economic, Agriculture, Finance, and Labor Ministries have launched programs to help businesses improve their operational resilience and expand into diverse international markets. In addition, the cabinet will also be collaborating with the Education, Health, and Interior Ministries to promote measures such as increasing subsidies for disadvantaged individuals, expanding care for elderly people living alone, subsidizing renovations for older homes, and reducing tuition and miscellaneous fees for students. At the same time, these measures aim to enhance higher education talent development, improve the quality of medical services, and strengthen the resilience of emergency medical supplies. However, with the public focused on the approval of universal cash payments of 10,000 NT dollars or 330 US dollars per person, Premier Zhou Rongtai stated that the process will begin within 1 month after it passes the third reading and is promulgated. The Premier emphasized that all ministries and agencies must expedite their review and implementation, adhering to the principles of simplicity, speed, and priority. A Romanian media outlet published an article written by a Taiwanese government leader for the first time this Wednesday. The piece, authored by Foreign Minister Lin Jialong, urges the international community to reject China's distortion of UN General Assembly Resolution 2758. Lin explains that Taiwan's long-standing exclusion from the UN is based on China's deliberate misinterpretation of Resolution 2758 and emphasizes that the resolution does not determine Taiwan's international status nor prohibit it from participating in the UN and its agencies, such as the International Civil Aviation Organization. The importance of peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait has been publicly reiterated by a number of countries these few years, explained Lin. He says many of these have also voiced support for Taiwan's meaningful participation in international organizations. Faced with authoritarian regimes' undermining of international order through gray zone tactics, Lin says peace can no longer be taken for granted and that democratic countries should unite to strengthen societal and institutional resilience. Lin highlights Taiwan's unique position as a key member of the First Island chain. He says Taiwan is a key driver of stability and prosperity both in the Indo-Pacific region and globally, with its solid economic foundation and world-leading semiconductors. Taiwan will continue firmly defending democratic values both at home and abroad, stressed Lin. He urges the international community to reject the distortion of Resolution 2758 and recognize Taiwan's global contributions and rightful place. Since the revised act governing the allocation of government revenues and expenditures took effect, local leaders have raised concerns about the distribution of centrally funded tax revenues. On Wednesday, 15 KMT, TPP, and nonpartisan heads of government held a joint press conference urging the central government to safeguard local fiscal autonomy. They demanded allocations be made according to law, with amounts not reduced compared to pre-amendment levels. President Lai Ching-te said that flaws in the formula left more than 30 billion NT dollars, which is 990 million US dollars, undistributed and created horizontal inequities, with southern counties receiving less. He warned this imbalance undermines Taiwan's long-term development. Lai also pointed to vertical inequities, as the new law assigns all business tax revenues to local governments. Next year alone, local governments will see an increase of 416.5 billion NT dollars, or 13.7 billion US dollars, in centrally funded tax revenues. This forced the central government to issue over 300 billion NT dollars, or 9.9 billion US dollars, in debt to balance its budget. Lai cautioned that future disasters could strain the central government's ability to provide relief, harming national development. The president stressed last year's amendment, driven by the opposition, was a grave mistake. He said KMT-led local governments sought to isolate the central government, while the opposition majority legislature ignored the cabinet's warnings and rejected its request for reconsideration.
So we can clearly see that the butcher's knife was never in the hands of the DPP. Premier Cho will, on Saturday, meet in stages with all county and city heads. I hope all can engage in rational and objective discussions, in particular those counties and cities with stronger finances and greater resource allocations should take care of those with fewer resources.
The U.S. House of Representatives passed the National Defense Authorization Act, or NDAA, on Wednesday local time, authorizing nearly $900 billion in military spending and proposing plans to streamline defense procurement processes. The bill also rejected amendments that would have banned aid to Ukraine and Taiwan. The vote on the NDAA was 231 to 196, split roughly along party lines, with all but 4 Republicans supporting the bill and all but 17 Democrats opposing it. Breaking Defense, a military news outlet, reported that the vote was notable for its bipartisanship, as Democrats and Republicans largely united to reject amendments proposed by Georgia Republican Representative Taylor Greene, which would have banned funding for Ukraine and defunded the Taiwan Security Cooperation Initiative. The amendment to ban funding for Ukraine was defeated by a vote of 60 to 372, while the amendment targeting Taiwan was defeated by a vote of 9 to 422. The Senate is currently considering its own version of the bill, which authorizes $32 billion more in spending than the House version. Once the Senate version passes, the House and Senate Armed Services Committees will negotiate a compromise bill, which must pass both chambers before it can be sent to the White House for President Trump to sign into law or veto. A U.S. think tank has warned that Taiwan's 27-year LNG deal with Qatar exposes it to Chinese leverage.
Qatar and Taiwan signed a 27-year liquefied natural gas (LNG) deal meant to secure a long-term supply, but a U.S. think tank has warned it leaves Taipei vulnerable to Chinese leverage. The Foundation for Defense of Democracies, FDD, urged Taiwan to diversify resources early to avoid a strategic trap. Taiwan's economic ministry stressed that imports are already diversified, with nearly half from stable suppliers such as Australia and the United States. The ministry added that it will evaluate new contracts if they meet national needs and are competitively priced. In a recent report, the FDD detailed results of a July war game exercise in Taipei, which found Beijing could destabilize Taiwan without firing a single shot by combining energy blockades, economic coercion, and cyber attacks. Nearly half of Taiwan's electricity relies on natural gas, all of it imported, with limited reserve. A disruption, the report said, could force Taiwan to choose between powering homes and hospitals or sustaining its semiconductor industry, the backbone of Taiwan's economy and the global tech chain. In 2024, Taiwan imported 21 million tons of LNG, with Australia supplying 38%, Qatar 25%, and the United States 10%. Under the long-term agreement, Qatar Energy will provide CPC Corporation with 4 million tons annually for 27 years, deepening reliance on a single supplier. FDD warned that Beijing has already planted malware in foreign infrastructure and could pressure suppliers through diplomacy or maritime force. It urged Taiwan to reinforce cybersecurity and critical infrastructure defenses to withstand such threats. Joey Chow for RTI News.
Attending the Yimin Festival celebrating Hakka culture in Hsinchu this Thursday, President Lai Ching-te prayed for Yimin Ye's blessing of peace, prosperity, and good weather. Lai said he hopes people in Taiwan will uphold the spirit of Yimin Ye, stressing loyalty, righteousness, and unity as a way to uphold Taiwan's sovereignty and democracy.
Defend our homeland, protect our people, and always maintain the democratic and free constitutional system. We must uphold the non-subordinate nature of the Republic of China and the People's Republic of China, insist on sovereignty not being violated or annexed, and insist that the future of Taiwan be determined jointly by its 23 million people.
During his presidential campaign, Lai proposed the 6 Arrows of Hakka policy, which included public, culinary, youth, creative, regional, and international Hakka. Lai added that this policy has yielded concrete results in encouraging young people to return to their hometowns to start businesses, connecting with the development of Hakka communities, and establishing Taiwan as a global Hakka center. Thanks for joining me for the news. I'm Michelle Chang. Stay tuned for another 50 minutes of English language features brought to you by Radio Taiwan International.